Welcome to the daily grind, the sad day. I don't have as much energy as I did yesterday because, quite frankly, yesterday was we were so excited. But
Yeah.
I'm your host, Mark. I got Luke with me as always. But today we go from yesterday being so excited about what we could hope for to today. Yeah. So if you're living under a rock, if you're living under a rock and you don't know what we're talking about, John Morant tore his labrum, will be out for the season. He is a 5 to 7 month recovery period for John Morant. Should be good to go for next season. Should be, it's an injury that is not, it's not your knee, it's not your Achilles, which is good, I guess, if you're talking about silver linings, I guess. But so full show for you guys today. We'll talk about John Morant in the first segment, some silver linings. So we want to try to put a positive spin on it in the second segment. And then obviously tonight, the Grizzlies still got a game.
Yeah.
They still got to play basketball with without John Morant, and they'll take on the Mavericks on the road tonight. So Luke, we did a show last night. Me and Daniel and Nate hopped on last night and did a show. Discuss some initial reactions. You weren't there. You were out and about. So let's get what's your initial reaction on the John Morant news off the top?
Man, my gut reaction was that of anger and disappointment. Just not a jar or not nothing he did. Just at the way the training staff has just supposedly threw another weird injury in front of us and didn't really. I was just angry initially at another injury that was not mishandled but miscommunicated with us or not clearly just an up in the air injury. That was my first my first reaction. Second reaction, I was just bummed. I had talked to myself in the moves that we should make to make a run. I was fully into, yeah, man, we're gonna get that 9 seed, we're gonna get that 10 seed, and we're gonna win 2, get in the play-in, get an 8 seed, and be the team that nobody wants to see. I had talked myself into that narrative, and it's just a bummer. It's just like a lost season is never good ever. I mean, it's tough to spin that as a positive thing, and I just feel bad for him, man. Like I'm disappointed for him because I know that he wanted. That's not the ending he had to his season. It just sucks all the way around. Just sucks.
Yeah, it's Nate used the word devastating last night in his reaction, and I think that's a pretty good description because it is it is devastating. Like I said, I feel bad for Ja. It sucks to have it, spending all the games out, not playing since whatever April, something like that.
Yeah.
And then coming back and then getting that too, and like you said, I mean, to be clear, the press release said that this happened in a training session, and I don't know what you're doing in a training session that caused you to have a torn labrum.
Yeah.
But what are you doing in a training session? So this would have happened Saturday morning. That would have been after the Lakers game. What are you doing in a training session where you feel like
in a way they weren't even here?
Yeah, on a away road trip but the day in between games. You shouldn't be doing anything. If you're anything, you're doing a walkthrough, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know what the what the real story is. There's obviously going to be a lot of speculation, and so I don't know what that real story is. But whatever it is, if I will say this, if you are holding a session where you're training in the morning, Saturday morning in between 2 games where you really don't need to be doing anything other than resting, and you're going full contact or full speed, that's on the staff, the coaching staff. That is absolutely dreadful, right? So I don't know. Again, I don't want to speculate. I have no idea what happened. None of us do. But all they said is that it happened in a training session, which, this Grizzlies training staff has they got serious problems. I mean, I don't know. I think there's some luck involved there too, bad luck. But at the same time, enough. I mean, it happens so often, right? You gotta have to start asking questions at some point, what is wrong? And I think that's kind of where I'm at. A lot of attribute to a lot of things just bad luck, and I get that, but at the same time, there is a certain point where it doesn't make a whole lot of sense how you have this many injuries. I don't know. Maybe it is just bad luck, and I'm just looking for I'm looking for an excuse. I don't know.
To be this consistent with poor injury handling news is weird. Like going back to the Steve-O shit, to Kennard's bone bruise in his knee that I still haven't seen. Like it's just I just don't understand the caginess that we or the it's like you were saying, like, what the hell are we doing between games in like not at our home training facility going so hard that happens.
Yeah,
And
I
if
mean,
that's not what happened, then what are they lying about?
it's just a weird. Daniel said he thinks he thinks it was a workout. Even so, I mean, I would. It's just kind of weird. I know they work out all season and they do these things. So it's just kind of weird thing to do in between games. You would think they would have that day off, but again, we don't know. We're just kind of throwing things around. We don't know. But the long and short of it is that Ja Morant's out. It sucks for him. Sucks for the Grizzlies. There's no way around this. Going forward, how does this change the Grizzlies season?
Well, for me, you can't be playing for. I don't think you're playing for the postseason anymore. I think you're playing to see what these guys got in them, these young kids. I think you give guys like when I'll talk about this more in the next segment, but like I think this is a chance where you, rather than play for the postseason, you kind of give these guys a shot to. You give Roddy, you give Santi, you give Z, you give these guys a shot to see what they got, see what you have as a team. I don't think we should tank. Do not think we should tank. I hate that word. I don't think these guys have it in them to tank. But I do think this is when you see what you got. Test your. I mean, I don't want to say test your lineups out. We just got done talking yesterday about lineups and how confusing and frustrated we get. But like, this is the time of year where you see what like. This is going to be a lot of the same team you have next year. See what you got. See what you got in these guys. Like, don't go into next season half-cocked, not knowing what you got.
See, I think that if a lot of these guys are still on your team next season, I think you have not completed a good offseason or the rest of the year. If you have a lot of the same guys still on this team as you did this year, I think it will be a massive failure. If you start
not the young guys. I'm
talking about even the young guys. If Jake LaRavia, if
they should be gone.
Well, I'm just saying, like you have everybody but the big three and Vince Williams and maybe Marcus Smart, right? Unless you get a good deal for Marcus Smart. Like everybody else is on the table. Go out and do what you got to get. So I think if this team looks largely the same from top to bottom as it does, next year as it does this year, it will be a massive failure from the front office because, quite frankly, you've seen what you have and a lot of the guys already. You know what you're getting on some of these lineups. So like nothing on that part has changed at all. And it's not going to change. You might get some more development out of them. You might see a little bit more, could you see past the bad into the good eventually, right? But like you kind of know where you're at, right? So I think, especially now, you're a month away from the trade deadline. If they continue to operate how they are now next season, like I said, it will be a massive failure.
They need to make a move still. I think this trade deadline. Like for me, there's 5 dudes, and I think somebody might have just said exactly who I was thinking Braxton. Shout out to Braxton. Those are the dudes who I'm not touching. Dez, I'm not touching Ja. I'm not touching Tripp. I'm not touching Vince. I'm not touching Santi. Those are the 5 dudes that I think. And you know what? Even Marcus though, man. Like those 5 dudes are safe. I think that what you got in those 5 guys, and I would head into those with those 5 guys in my rotation next year. I like Luke, but I see what you're saying. Like Luke should be on the table, Marcus should be on the table, Steve-O should be on the table. Like these are all contracts that teams would want, right? Like these are contracts that's money. That's like salary filler, and the other 5 though, the contracts are too good. I just think that we got to stick with those other 5.
I will say that. What I mean is that I mean that, like, for me, the only people that are not off the table are Jaren and Dez, and only Vince is in that category only because you'll get a team friendly deal from him, right? You're
Yes.
going to be able to lock him up for 4 years on a really good deal. And we were actually talking about this in the Discord last night, what we think he's going to get. I suspect he'll somewhere be around, $3 to $5 million a year over 4 years. And
20,
in a
20
couple of
million.
years, in a couple of years, that will look like, $2 million a year because of the cap
The
raise.
cap. Yeah.
So I only put Vince in that category simply because of the deal he's going to get. The deal that he's going to get will be such a good value for the what you're going to get out of him. For me, like I like Santi, I like Luke, I like Marcus, but those are not guys that I'm like, hey, you can't have. Like, those are not guys I'm starting the conversation with a no on. Those are guys I'm starting to conversation. Well, what do you want for them? Kind of deal. And you have to, those are guys that you'll tread lightly. Like, you want to make sure it's a good deal. Like, they just paid 2 firsts for Marcus Smart. You think they're really going to let him go for nothing? Like that's the kind of stuff that I'm saying. Those guys are not like, we're going to ship them off, but they're not unavailable either,
Yeah.
And so for me, I think that they gotta, they're not going to do anything right now for the record. They're going to, they're going to see what they look like without Ja. I think that they're not gonna look, go out and lose on purpose. They're not even going to play I think for the next week or so, you will see them play kind of the lineups you saw them play against the Suns. They'll see them play 8 dudes to 37 minutes a piece, or whatever it is, because they're going to see, can they still compete? Because this is a team of guys that still want to compete.
Yes.
And until they figure out that they can't, right? Then I think maybe that changes. But what I do think it opens up trades that you may have not done this year.
Yeah.
Because the trades were, good for this year. Now you may looking at trades that make you better next year, but maybe aren't so good this year, like taking on some bad salary or whatever it is to facilitate maybe some other bigger team trades, 3-team trades like we talked about yesterday. That is, I think, where they will that is the most likely path forward for them over the next few weeks and then going into the trade deadline. But I think it opens up trades you would not normally been not able to do, but not willing to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think not being able to actually, like, now not being able to actually compete for a title this year, I think it changes the timeline on Kennard. I think it makes Kennard immediately more tradable. Just with that option, like, I think that he might have. I think that he may have been a bit more safer if we knew if we were like, okay, we stand a realistic shot at making the postseason. But now with that gone, with that team option next year, that contract is also, like, all of a sudden really, really appealing, I guess. Like, if I were like, that's a much easier trade chip now.
Well, for sure. I mean, the team options are always going to be good trade chips because, again, you get the flexibility of trying a guy out, right? And it's because it's not expiring, get a guy flexibility trying a guy out, but also moving on from him if you don't like them. Daniel said he wondered if he knows about the severity of Ja's injury prior to the Phoenix game. If the team knew, I don't think so. I really don't, because Ja was bouncing around at the Phoenix game after that game. Like I think they genuinely thought it was just sore, right? And then you get an MRI just to, like, let's just double check this thing. And you're like, oh shit, how did that happen?
How that happened.
I do think that is probably the most ideal course. Braxton asked us, what do you guys think our biggest need for consolidation is, assuming Steven can come back strong? Steven Adams. Again, the biggest problem with this team is the back end of the roster.
Yeah.
Is off the bench players, role players. They got 8 wings that can't play. Not really 8, but they got 3 wings that can't play. They need to consolidate their wings from all mediocre to bad wings to one good wing. If I'm asking for consolidation, if I'm just wishing for things, that's what they need to consolidate. That's their biggest need right now. Because if you're assuming Steven going to come back healthy, then that solves your center problem right there. Again, the biggest problem for this team is bench wings, or just wings in general. I mean, I would still take a starting wing, but bench wings is your biggest need for this team. But if you can somehow, take Jake LaRavia and Luke and David Roddy or some form of those guys and turn them into a starting caliber wing that creates more offense for you and is still good defensively, then they'll go do that.
Yeah. Well, and it's Oh man, it's still only 5.5 games back from the play-in. It's really tough for me to realistically like picture the play-in right now. And I mean, hoping that that Steve-O is going to be healthy. I feel like that's also that's a big assumption, right? Like,
It is a big assumption that Steven's going to be healthy. I mean, we don't know. We assume he's going to until proven otherwise. You said like Brandon Clark. We assume he's going to be healthy until we proven otherwise. Yeah, they're only 5.5 games back from the play-in spot. I still don't think that's a big. I mean, that was an uphill battle with Ja. To be fair,
yeah,
that's a lot of games, right? And a lot of games with a lot of teams in front of you who I think could be good. I mean, could be, I don't know, could be good, could be bad. So it's all relative right now. And like I said, I think they will continue to try to be competitive over the next few games because they will continue to see what they have, right, with the team that's on the court. And so, I played well on Sunday without John, but that's
yeah,
one game. That's one game. John Morant's still a superstar. Like, if you want if you could have superstars, I would definitely take them for sure.
yeah.
And so that's kind of the problem with it is you saw that in the first 25 games where you needed someone to go get a basket. And so that's where you miss John Morant. And he also just makes everybody better, right? Like, he makes Zaire Williams better. He makes Santi better. Like, playing with those guys, he makes them better, creates shots for them.
Yeah.
And that's what they're sorely missing right now. So, if I were the Grizzlies in terms of trades this year, if they could find a decent backup point guard and maybe ship Rose out, I would definitely try to do that.
Yeah.
Because Rose is never going to play, man. It's just not.
Seems like he's
just
done.
not.
He can't stay
So,
healthy. His body's
yeah.
giving up on him.
Yeah. So let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. We're going to talk about some positive things on the other side of the break. What's some silver linings, if there are any. I don't know if there are, but we'll find them during the break, during this 2-minute commercial. We'll find them during the break and we'll let you know.